Yeah, and that's kind of where I want to start. And I had a tweet about the Lynch dialogue because there was a particular quote that stood out to me from the Lynch dialogue. And it seems like now nobody else really cares about that quote. But he was speaking about Trey Lance today, right? And he had a lot of really, really positive things to say. He reaffirmed how much the Niners believe in Trey Lance, how good Trey Lance's character is, and all of those type of things. But when he started talking about his injuries and he said that, Trey Lance needs to play. And I think what he said there was obvious and honest. But the second part of what he said was what really piqued my attention, Larry. And that was the second part. And I thought it was a very honest thing from John Lynch, but I also thought it was a very revealing statement. And he said that I don't know. He needs to play for Trey Lance, right? He needs to play. I don't know when he will get his chance to play, but he needs to play. And I was a little taken aback by that quote, Larry, because I thought in a lot of ways the 49ers were committed to him as the starter this offseason, especially because Lynch himself spent a good portion of this morning's or this afternoon's presser talking about how uncertain and hazy the situation was surrounding Brock Purdy's elbow and how a lot of it is that they're just praying and hoping that, the swelling goes down. He has the surgery next week. Everything goes okay and he's back for the season. But I thought that was a really, really good opportunity for Lynch to just confirm and commit to Trey Lance right there. He could have said, we're excited to see him come back this offseason and get his opportunity. But instead, he said, I don't know when he'll get his opportunity to play. And I don't want to read too much into the quote because he said enough good things about Trey Lance there. But to me, what that did reveal is that the 49ers are hoping Purdy comes back to start the season. And if Purdy's healthy at any point before week 1, he will be the starter. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't know. That's not kind of what definitely I got the fact that Purdy is he's the guy, he's the incumbent, if anybody's going to inherit the job, it's going to be him. Okay. So that's clear. And I didn't really need anybody to tell me that, I can we all saw that. But they did invest a lot in Trey. The thing on
Right.
what he said about Trey is he's got to play. That's the biggest challenge. He says, we have a team that's ready to go. He has to
Right.
get out there and play.
Right.
And then he went on to say, we believe in who he is as a person, who he is as a quarterback. But that sounds to me like the Warriors sounded a couple weeks ago on James Wiseman. Like, hey, you know what? He's got to play, but he's not getting minutes here. And we don't know how he's going to develop. Like that sounds like trade clouds starting to form. He's got to play. That's the biggest challenge. Well, wait a second. Brock's hurt. And then why is that a challenge? Trey's the only quarterback you have. And he's out there on the field right now playing. So he's got to play. That's the biggest challenge. We have a team that's ready to go. We have a team that's ready to go. And the implication is clearly Trey is not ready to go. Am I reading that wrong, or what? Are you not getting that out of that? That's what I got out of that. I got out of that he's saying, clearly Trey's got to play. You and I have said this. Everybody Trey knows he has to play. He has to play this year. But then he goes on to say, that's the biggest challenge. What's the challenge? The challenge is if he's not ready to play. And then he says, we have a team that's ready to go right now. Well, the implication is that Trey's not ready to go right now. And I mean, maybe I'm overreading that. Maybe I don't know.
I think you're reading it the same exact way I am, and you're just choosing a different quote. By the way, I misquoted the quote itself in the beginning, and it's later on in the press conference. He basically says that, Brock got the opportunity to play. He said similar things to what you pointed out, right? He said Brock got the opportunity to play and he grabbed it and he played great. Trey needs to get the opportunity to play. We very much believe in him, but we'll see how at some point we get him that opportunity. And to me, it was like, what do you mean you need to get him that opportunity? Like, you drafted him 3rd overall 2 years ago, and he's only played 4 games. Isn't he still in your long-term plans? And that's where I
It's
completely
basically
agree with
like I'm
you.
going with Brock. That's basically his way of
Right.
saying they're going with Brock.
And to me that was, I thought it was a ringing endorsement that they're going with Brock right now, and Trey's going to be the number 2, and something else is going to have to happen for him to get that opportunity, and he's going to have to seize it when he does, but he's not going to be given that opportunity this offseason. Brock Purdy is.
Yeah. Yeah. It really sounds like it now. And we don't even know the extent of Brock's surgery. You know, we did get a definitive date. It's going to be next week, but we don't know how he's going to come out of that surgery. I don't know. It's interesting. Then the other thing Lynch said was he was pushed a little bit on the quarterback,
Right.
and he said, you know, what do you say? We're gonna look at it. He said,
He
you
wanted to
know,
insulate the quarterback room.
he said we may have to look in the quarterback market. So I think it will be interesting to me. I think they'll bring in that third quarterback in a relatively short amount of time, and that third quarterback should tell us um, a lot, because if it's a third quarterback that really could be a one or a two
Mhm.
in some estimation, then maybe there is a trade coming.
Right.
If it's a quarterback that's truly a three, then maybe not. You know, maybe not. That's how I would read it. So, I mean, I would love to see Marcus Mariota. I'd love
I
to
I just
hoard
can't see them
athletic
trading
talent.
him. I just can't see them trading him, Larry, for a
He's
team
cut.
that
They
was,
cut him today.
or no, no, not Mariota. I'm talking about Lance himself.
Oh yeah. I
Here's
mean, it's a tough
here's
trade.
why.
It's a tough trade
Here's
to
why,
make.
Larry. Here's why I can't see them trading him. Look at their history, right? Last offseason, they were pretty hell-bent that they weren't going to trade Jimmy Garoppolo for less than what his value was, right? They weren't going to just give him away to get him off the roster because of the way things worked out with his surgery and all of that. Like, they wanted to maintain his value because they felt like they had a valuable asset. Do you think that team would then turn around and just take the sunk cost? Because again, we don't know what you could get for Trey Lance, but I'm assuming it's not anywhere close to the 2 first-round picks that you gave up for him. So I can't see them delivering that sunk cost. And then what could have possibly changed in 2 years and 4 games, Larry, right? You had a plan for him. That plan, they seem to say, included him sitting for a year. So you had a plan for him in 2022. Unfortunately, that plan didn't work out because he got hurt, 50, 60 snaps into the season, but not that much could have changed in 12 months that now you're trading him. Like that plan, I don't see why that plan still can't be applied here, especially given the uncertainty around Brock Purdy. Do you really think they would trade him?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Here's why. John just laid it out there. I mean, he just laid it out there. He's got to play. But Brock is their choice at quarterback. I think we both have got that thought. So then he's talking about going into the quarterback market. We'll see what kind of quarterback he brings in to complement. But it's almost like he's saying it's almost like he was preparing us for a trade, because he's kind of saying, well, Trey's got to play. That's the biggest challenge. Yeah, that's the biggest challenge because Brock's outplayed him to this point, and Brock will be the starting quarterback going into next year in the minds of the players and the coaches and probably most of the fans. So then
I
it's
think I think they're wrong to be there, honestly, Larry, just because of the uncertainty surrounding his arm. Given the uncertainty surrounding that surgery, when he's going to come back, how good he's going to be when he comes back, how much pressure do you want him to put on him to rush that recovery given the serious nature of the injury? I think that in a lot of ways, to me, when John Lynch talked today, and I wish he was pressed a little bit more and asked a little bit more to be a little more specific with some of the vague things he said about the quarterback thing. Like, we need to look at the market more. Like, do you guys not have a plan here? I felt like, Larry, a lot of the plan is just hope. It's in a lot of ways, it's just hoping and praying everything goes right with Brock Purdy's arm. He has a great recovery and he's ready to go at the start of the season, and he's good as he was last year, and he's ready to go, and he's playing as well as he was last year. I don't know if you gleaned that at all, but that's really what I noticed. And in a lot of ways, I think it would be the wrong approach, and I wouldn't expect that kind of approach from two people who have proven to be as prudent, logical, analytical, and intelligent as Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have while running the 49ers.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really interesting situation, isn't it? I mean, because in some ways And John references kind of off the start that the league may change their rules in regards to the third quarterback and the need to have a third quarterback. And
Right,
I kind of think the third quarterback is going to be what I envision, which is all the quarterbacks have to be able to ascend to the number one job and lead you to victory. Um, that would be my new standard. I think that's he kind of I thought kind of laid out that exact same thought pattern by kind of addressing the fact that they need to be in the quarterback
right.
market, despite the fact that we know they have two. I agree with you on the Trey Lance trade. It's really why would they trade Trey Lance? The only reason you would trade Trey Lance is if you didn't believe in his talent, or as John Lynch laid out here, and it really is clear. I mean, let's lay all the cards on the table. Trey Lance's development, if it's going to take what's a reasonable amount of time for development, year and a half. If it's that, I think 49er fans would be too impatient to endure it. I don't think 49er fans, nor do I think the roster, the front office, the head coaching staff, the media, nobody's going to be satisfied with anything less than Lombardi trips. Now, or trips to the Super Bowl. Now, can you do both? Maybe you can do both. Maybe you could just stay with Trey and make, but if they don't believe in him, or if they feel like there's flaws that they've seen in his game, then that would make them want to trade him. If they don't see those flaws in his game, then I say don't trade him because he's a great kid and he'll eventually, be a really good quarterback. And I think it's just going to take some time and it's going to take development. And, you have Brock to play right away. You can play Trey slowly off the bench and slow play it as you whatever. The only thing is, I didn't love the dual quarterback plan. You know what I mean? Of running quarterback power. So I'm always a little skeptical when I hear, well, he's a dual quarterback. What he was is a hurt quarterback. You know what I mean? He needs
Yeah.
to be a healthy quarterback. And I'd like him to just play from the pocket and just scramble. I don't understand why that's not enough. Why it has to be these built-in quarterback keepers. But these guys know more football than I do. I will say this though. I think this is really interesting because to me, it sets up a lot like James Wiseman. Lynch saying he's got to play and that's a challenge, almost as if to say, well, he's not going to play here behind, he's going to sit behind Brock. And then when you say somebody's got to play, that's almost like you're trying to prepare the fan base for, hey, we had to move him because he had to play. And you know what? If I was Trey's family or Trey's agent, and I would kind of push this really hard too. Because think about it. If this is your son or if this is your client, you want to do the best for him. The best for him is not to ride the bench in San Francisco behind Brock Purdy, if that's what the 49ers vision of the future is. The best for him is to be the starting quarterback in a brand new, fresh situation and be on the field. So I don't know what that means, Vish, but it would not be. I would not be surprised at all if Trey's side was like, hey, we got to play, and what if he doesn't win the starting job? He wants to play. So what's going to rule the day? Than being with the Niners or playing if Brock is better than Trey.
And I want to go deeper into this conversation because I do think there's a lot that needs to be go that needs we need to go back and analyze and put some things together to why we got here and where we got here with Trey Lance in 2 years and 4 games, because it's been quite a journey to take on a player who's really played just 4 games, and from a personality, character, intangible wise, has really been everything the 49ers drafted, according to him, everyone and anyone that he's been, that type of a human being. So it's been quite the journey. And so I